As of Year 10 Season 3's narrative in Rainbow Six Siege lore, Team Rainbow has been officially deactivated and shut down after a majority vote from the Global Security Alliance Council. Thanks to some intel gathered by Denari, both Rainbow and Nighthaven, who are subsequently losing their contract because of this as well, are able to buy Rainbow a final 24 hours to stop Phobos and further diminish the Keres Legion once and for all. But regardless, this has been deemed as Rainbow's final mission. Now, what does this mean for the lore? Where are we going forward? I've seen some reactions from a lot of people, both who follow the lore and don't follow the lore, that feel like this may be an end to Rainbow Six Siege's narrative altogether. But I don't think that is the case at all. Rather, I still believe that this is a massive part of the Keres Legion's plan, and this is just a next stage in their execution against Rainbow. Let me explain. So, the Global Security Alliance Council hasn't really been prominent in Rainbow Six's lore up until one of their members was targeted by the Keres Legion during Deimos' attack on Emerald Plains. Luckily, Rainbow were able to intercept this, not only saving the Secretary General, but being able to capture Deimos in the process. But this is when Rainbow would begin to get a lot of scrutiny from the higher-ups. Now that their own lives were in danger, they would begin to assess and evaluate the effectiveness of Rainbow, with one member, Lucas Liu, claiming that they are a lightning rod for conflict themselves, and that if Rainbow was to not exist, said conflicts and concerns wouldn't actually exist to begin with. However, this seems like this has been the Keres Legion's plan all along. Not only pressuring the GSAC and putting more pressure on Rainbow, but also potentially having a hand to play in the GSAC as well, and we are seeing their plan fall through. Now, we know that there are many members on the Global Security Alliance Council. One of them is a woman named Smith. We just met her in the comic book for Operation High Stakes. She does seem to be in favor of Rainbow and presumably did not vote for their deactivation. If she is a member of the GSAC who can vote on this stuff, maybe she has a different role to play. We also know that Aurelia is on the GSAC. She was the person who was first responsible for reactivating this current Rainbow Squad back in 2015, before being promoted to Secretary of State and passing the role over to Harry. We also have the Secretary General, who Rainbow rescued at Emerald Plains, and we also have the mention of Lucas Liu as well, who seems to be one of the primary people who are advocating for Rainbow's deactivation. Now, these were only a few members we were able to see of the GSAC, but there is presumably many more. And I had a theory back during the Assault on Hereford base event that Lucas Liu was potentially Phobos, and they were having a massive hand to play in the Keres Legion conflict, and it was sort of like pitting these two sides together for their own beneficial gain. Even if Lucas isn't necessarily Phobos, I feel like there is some corruption within the GSAC, and there is a reason why the Keres Legion has a lot of funding from unknown sources, and I definitely think they are sort of being portrayed as a somewhat dark Rainbow that has funding which is off the books from a lot of corrupt politicians, GSAC members, and more. But my main leading cause of that theory was the fact that the accent which Phobos had during this event, as he was the one coming to you if you played as the Keres Legion side, sounded a bit of like an Irish-American accent.
Good work blocking the entry point. If Rainbow wants in, they'll need to get through us. Enemies know where you are. Maintain pressure. They can't breach as long as we're there. Stop Rainbow from getting through our defenses. Hostiles have gained a way in. We've regained control of the hacking device. Secured device. The device has been retrieved. Hacking device secured. We've regained control of the device. Hacking device is live. Protected. Hostage is on the move. Target is on the move. The target is grounded. Deimos is being moved. Deimos is no longer in motion. Enemy moving Deimos. They've unloaded the hostage. Rainbow has Deimos. Target is no longer moving.
And then Lucas Liu. Liu is a very Irish surname. So that was just a bit of a one-off theory. However, if we look at the battle pass for Operation High Stakes, we have two charms. The first one is of Mars and its two moons, Deimos and Phobos. We could then imagine that Mars itself is the leader, or in this case, the quote which follows this is Thermite talking about the GSAC. specifically a dedicated officer. In this case, I think he is talking about Smith because she is there on the ground at Nighthaven's US base in Detroit, and I assume they're using this Nighthaven base as sort of like a temporary base of operation, and that's why Smith is there, because she is the dedicated officer that Thermite is talking about. But correlating a charm which has Mars, Deimos, and Phobos, and also Thermite is talking about the GSAC, and then we have another very similar charm which has, once again, the same solar system, having Deimos, Phobos, and Mars, but Mars also now has a skull in the middle of it, similar to the logo of the Keres Legion, and the quote that is attached to this one is by Lucas Liu. My initial interpretation of this is the first charm, Mars represents the GSAC, you then have Phobos and Deimos from the Keres Legion being Mars's moons, and then we eventually get to see Mars emerging more with a skull appearing from it, with specifically Lucas Liu being the one accompanied by it. That is then when I would sort of change my stance on this theory and say, well, maybe Lucas isn't Phobos. Phobos just seems to be like another, I guess, pawn in a sense, but Lucas and maybe more members of the GSAC could be in collaboration with the Keres Legion. I mean, that would explain why he was so prominent on questioning the integrity of Rainbow and wanting to shut them down. You also have to remember as well, when Scopos was introduced to the team, or reintegrated, shall I say, as she was a veteran Rainbow operative, one of the tasks she was given was to assess and evaluate the effectiveness of Rainbow. She was in collaboration with the GSAC as well as especially Aurelia, and as she would begin to interview Rainbow Ops, sort of assess them, take a look at the team, Lucas Liu would begin to question the integrity of Curie, saying that she is too attached and too close to this unit, being an ex-Rainbow operative herself, so she is more likely to give them the benefit of the doubt, to give them a bit more breathing room. That's when he proposed to the rest of the GSAC that they scrap anything which Curie had researched, and they bring in their own dedicated officer. Oh, and when was this new dedicated officer conveniently analyzing Rainbow's performance? When Hereford base was being attacked by the Keres Legion. An attack which subsequently kills this dedicated officer. It's almost like Lucas Liu knew that this assault on Hereford base was about to take place, and that the death of a dedicated GSAC officer under Rainbow's protection would help convince the board to deactivate Rainbow. So now we're at a stage where it has been a majority vote to deactivate Rainbow, but there is clear members of the GSAC who didn't vote in favor of this. It seems like Smith wasn't one of them. I can't imagine Aurelia would be as well, unless she somehow changed her stance. And heck, I don't even think the Secretary General would be as well, thanks to this voice line between Doc and Deimos.
Le Secrétaire Général sent us a thank you letter for taking you down. What was your contribution again? Oh, right. Getting shot in the head.
So I don't think that this is Ubisoft sunsetting Rainbow Six Siege's lore. I think this is the story continuing as ever and even getting bigger. This is the deconstruction of Rainbow with the Keres Legion manipulating the Global Security Alliance Council, having corruption. There is now probably going to be a bit of a conflict between GSAC members wanting to keep Rainbow and others not wanting to keep them. Could we even see some rogue funding? Of course, we have Nighthaven, a private military, in the mix here as well. There are now so many different aspects in play that this story can go anywhere. But the most important part where this comic book has left off is the fact that Rainbow have bought themselves 24 hours to stop Phobos at the Detroit port and hopefully prevent the spreading of more explosives around the world. What this means for the future of Rainbow is still uncertain. I honestly believe that in year 11, we may not see a new Rainbow operative, depending on how this goes. I think we could get another Nighthaven agent, or potentially it could just be a full year of Keres operators. I do also feel like maybe the year 10 event, which is coming in season 4 of this year, could be linked to the current narrative as well, because if we think about it, at the beginning of year 10 season 4, if we see Rainbow getting shut down, and that leads us into the year 11 cinematic where something big may happen, then the in-game event for year 10 season 4 could just be like a re-evaluation of Rainbow's records over the past 10 years now that they've been deactivated, and us as the players get to play through, like, I don't know, different old events or different X, Y, and Z. You know, it can be a celebration of the game over 10 years with it actually being a narrative-based event, looking back and re-evaluating this team now that they've been shut down. but for us as the players, it's an appreciation of the game over the past 10 years. But yeah, I don't think this is the end of the narrative. I think this is honestly just the start of an entirely new arc, and we're about to see a lot of different stuff change. There are so many different aspects involved here, and I cannot wait to see where they bring the story. And I don't know, I feel like they may be cooking up something good. But yeah, I hope this was a helpful analysis of what has just happened in the lore. If you want to talk about this more, drop it in the comments. I'll be sure to make more videos about it. But yeah, drop a like on this video if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. Catch you all in the next video. I love you all. Stay safe. Have a good one.